Well, hello strange people, and welcome back to the channel. And what an absolutely glorious, well, late spring day. Absolutely beautiful it is here at the moment by the river. In the last video I said I'd run through a few odds and sods which I'm going to be bringing with me. I'm not going to do full kit review of food and things like that. Just needless to say, I will be eating. A few things that I won't be taking with me, my fishing rods. I found out earlier this week that 4 of my rods have been stolen, and the other 2 which I had at home are broken. So I won't be taking I won't be investing in a fishing rod now just to go on this trip. Which is a bit of a shame, but I'm sure if one of the other lads catches a fish, he'll share it with me. But other than that, my kit will be pretty much what I take normally anyway when I'm out in the river, which I'll run through with you in a minute. I'm just going to make myself a brew, and then I'll run through my cook kit. Catch you in a mo. Just going to run through my cook kit. I'm going to take a very simple cook kit, very simple indeed. So we start with the stove. It's basically the bottom of my Kelly kettle tracker. What I did initially think, because it does have two large holes in the bottom is I thought I could get away, or hoped I could get away with just this little wire mesh over the top to put my pans, kettle on, whatever. But I found that it was okay while the fire was very small, but once the fire grew, it just wasn't working. So while I looked at it, another piece of kit that I'm bringing is my trangia, and with that my trangia triangle. And I looked at my trangia triangle, and I can't say that too often without getting it wrong, and I thought, I wonder if that fits on top, and it does. And not only does it fit on top, but it makes an absolutely brilliant little wood stove. So that's what I'll be using. If you look at the Kelly Kettle website, you'll see that they come with little stoves. I think Ant Survive the Night has got one. He's got the bigger Kelly Kettle than I have, but I think he's got one. And Lost Lakes, John over at Lost Lakes, I believe, uses one as well. But this, since I've already got it, is an extremely cheap alternative, and it worked really, really well. So I don't think it really matters which way up it is, that's the proper way up. But yeah, it worked really, really well. So that's what I'll cook on in the evenings. Mornings, for just my coffee in the mornings, I'll just use the trangia, inside the trangia triangle. Perfect. Cooking wise, well, in the evenings I'll boil my water in the Kelly Kettle. There's a couple of noisy boats coming. You know, if you go out in the middle of nowhere, you'll get an aeroplane. If you ever watch Joe Robinet, for instance, you'll hear an aeroplane almost every time. And to be honest, when I'm out on the moor, it's nearly always a helicopter. Down here, it's a boat. And they're going way too fast as always. Anyway, so I'll be using the Kelly Kettle, which for my evening brews and things. Morning brew, as I said, with a kettle with a trangia. Now this one I'm taking because I can also use it to cook food in, rice, pasta, if I take that kind of thing. Wash out in the evening, it's there ready for me to use in the morning for my brew. Seriously, there's a huge wake off these boats. What a pair of plonkers. You've got little tiny boats with huge engines on them. They could get away with 4-6 horsepower engines on those little boats, and I would say they've got 50 horsepower engines on them. Never mind. So yeah, so this will be used as my kettle in the mornings and my pot to cook food in the evenings. I'm also taking my small frying pan. As I said, I'm not really catching fish, so this will do just to maybe stir fry rice or whatever tin of meat. I'm taking tins of meat, I expect, so maybe I could probably make up a corned beef hash or something like that with this. So it's perfect. Drinking, I won't be using my kuksa. I'll be taking my tin mug. My tin mug, because I can, if I need to, I can also cook with that as well. So it gives me two sort of boiling options or cooking options with that. Oh. Making my coffee, my AeroPress. I absolutely love this thing. Brilliant. Oh. To eat out of, I will take my wooden bowl. Obviously, again, if I've got rice or pasta, be easier to eat out of this. Knife, fork and spoon set. That'll be it. That'll be it. Probably my little wooden spatula that I knocked up this morning. So yeah, that'll probably be it. I can't think of anything else I'm going to really need. As I say, it'll be mostly rice, pasta, that are cooking, so that'll go in the kettle. Meats, probably things like spam and corned beef, so that can go in there to be warmed up if I bother. This may just be one of those things that is extra weight, but better to have it than not. So that won't be coming. Now I know I can use the triangle. That won't be coming. So that's basically it for the cook kit. In fact, that's definitely it for the cook kit. I think the only thing I've got missing is my Mora knife, which would be my kitchen knife. Aside from that, that'll be it. Right, so one thing I do take very, very seriously, it doesn't matter where I am, whether I'm on the moor, up a mountain, in the forest, or on the river, is safety. It's always safety first. The number of times that we were asked to go out and rescue somebody that had done something stupid, or didn't have the knowledge to do what they were attempting to do, is incalculable. So it's just the one thing. I really do not want to put other people's lives in danger if I can help it. That doesn't mean to say that I don't want an adventure. I just want to do that adventure as safely as possible. Many years ago, I was going down the Tamar, and the Tamar has a lot of weirs. All of them, bar two, are runnable in an open canoe. Depending on water levels, of course, but they're all runnable in an open canoe by these two. And I was going down the river with a couple of other guys, and they both tipped in over a weir. And weirs, it doesn't matter how big they are, they're basically ledges, they're really quite dangerous. And they were lucky to get out. And I didn't have much in the way of safety gear. I had a PFD, and that was it. I was, Johnny Shore bollocks, basically, if you'll excuse the language. I was sure of my own skills and capabilities, and but that was a wake-up call for me. So I won't go out on the river anywhere now without a throw line. Now, these are brilliant, but you do need to learn how to use them, because, to be honest, unless you actually do know how to use them, they can be pretty useless. So I was trained whitewater, trained, part of my job, so I've got a fair knowledge of how to use these. But if you've got one and you don't know how to use it, go to somebody who does, and spend a few hours practicing. It's well worth it. Now, these two lads are lucky they didn't get trapped in the weir, but they came out the other side. It was November, it was freezing, and they were cold, and this is the UK, right? It's not like Canada. I don't know if you've seen Joe Robinet's video recently where he dunked, and he was very extraordinarily lucky, and he knows he was lucky. He made a video recently saying he knows he was lucky. One thing, even on this river, where it's relatively flat and calm, I'll always tie my gear into the boat. And one thing I'll always carry after that episode with the guys falling in is a dunk bag. Now, I don't always carry it on me. If I'm on this river, it'll be in my bag. The chances of me losing the canoe on this river are relatively slim. It could happen, but it's relatively slim. but I will always carry this on me if I'm on whitewater or near the sea, somewhere where it's a little bit more risky. Inside this bag are just a few basic things. As I said, I'm not in the middle of nowhere. I'm not likely to get caught in a blizzard or be trapped for very long in this country. But this also comes on the moors with me. This, in fact, it goes pretty much everywhere with me. It's just a very basic first aid kit with, oh, I need to change them out, I'm not allowed to take these anymore, but basic painkillers. As I say, basic first aid kit, a one-use wet weather poncho, and just some tissues. And that's all that's in there. That's generally all I need, or hope that I'll need. But it comes everywhere with me, whether I'm on the moor or on the river or in the woods. It's in there, it's in its own little tiny dry bag, so it should be safe. The other thing I carry is this. Now, like I said, we're in the UK, so we're never going to be very far from a house or a road or anything like that. And I'm looking over there now at the forest over there, and I can see the fields on the other side of the forest. Where the farmhouse is, I do not know, but I know there's a farmhouse up there which is probably 1.5 miles. The castle's over there, which is probably 1 mile. There's a house quite close to the river down here, which is probably nearer 2 miles. There's a house, well, it's this side of the river, so we'll forget that. But I can see 3 buildings, and the furthest one away from where I'm going to fall in is 2 to 3 miles. I don't know if there's a road on the other side. I think there is, but I don't know. But like, I'm just sort of using that as an example. Fact is, I'm never going to be that far away from help. So with that in mind, I would sort of caveat that with saying that if I was to wash up on this shore, my canoe, I've lost my paddles or whatever, and it's high tide, I'm stuck until the tide has gone out enough for me to actually make it to the village, because these cliffs behind me are at least 50 foot high. There's no way I'm climbing up through them. Don't let the trees that you see around me fool you. They're literally growing out of the cliff, and I wouldn't want to climb up this. It's just not very safe. Be easier for me to sit tight and just wait for the tide to go out, which could be, 5-6 hours, but it's better than risking my neck going up there. So with that kind of thing in mind, this little kit is extraordinarily basic, but that's all I need, I think, in the way of I don't want to say survival kit, because I don't think I'm ever likely to be in a survival position, but a comfort kit maybe. So I've got one of these foil blankets just to put around me to keep warm. Don't forget, I've also got that rain poncho in there, in the first aid kit. A ferro rod and a lighter to light a fire if I need to, or if I want to. Small torch in case it gets dark. It is working, it's just very bright here today. A few plasters, just to, any boo-boos I get. And last but not least, and I think quite importantly, £2 in coins so that I can make a phone call. Because if I'm stuck, I'm stuck. And that's not just necessarily if I find a telephone box, which these days is pretty rare, but if I knock on somebody's door and ask to use their telephone, it's just polite to offer them a little bit of cash for that phone call. So that's what I carry in there. And as I say, this isn't a survival kit. I don't need a knife or anything like that. It's just a comfort kit. And lastly, and I don't use this, I don't carry this normally on this section of the river. If I go beyond the bridges, then, and I will take this to Scotland because we're going on the sea, a small maritime radio. The distress channel is 16. But even around here now, if I was to whack this on and listen, you might hear boat-to-boat conversations. People that are on their boats today, there's a chap on his boat further upriver, I saw him go past earlier. They'll generally have their radios on, so there isn't a lot of mobile phone signal around here, as you can imagine with the cliffs. Further up the valley, where the valley is high and steep, there's definitely no mobile phone signal. So, and you know, mobiles get wet. Even though my mobile is kept in a dry bag, small dry bag, you know, it could still get wet. Or I could lose it out of my pocket. That happened to a lad. I took a group out last summer up the river, and two of the lads managed to tip their canoes over. I mean, it was summer, so you know, they were fine. But one of them lost his mobile phone, and he actually said, he seriously did say to one of the other guys, "Can you ring my phone, please?" Anyway, yeah, so I'll be taking this one, channel 16 for emergencies. It's got around about a 12-mile range, so it should be quite useful, hopefully. Any shipping going past will hear us anyway. Right, most important things above all really is my PFD. Actually no, not quite above all, but my PFD. I'm not a very good swimmer. In fact, I would class myself as not being able to swim at all. I generally carry a small packet of sweets in here, but some fat guts seems to have eaten them. So here is a rescue knife. It's just literally, that is what it is for, rescuing. It's a lock knife. It's something that I wouldn't go on a canoe without, really. There are lines all over the canoe. As I said, I tie my kit into the canoe. I don't tie it into the canoe so it's really tightly in there. I tie it so that if it tips, it'll float away from the canoe a little bit. But there's just every chance you can catch your leg in that and be flailing about. Small knife. It doesn't have to be anything, you know, super special. Just something sharp that you can cut that line with. Again, I've got a bow line. I also carry a stern line. I haven't got it with me today, but I generally carry a stern line in a small bag, so that if I do tip in, that bag opens up and that stern line comes out, and if the canoe's going away from me, I can grab that stern line and hopefully get to shore. There are methods where you can lie on your back, put your arms out and steer your way into shore. So the hope is that I can steer my way into shore and take the canoe with me. And the other thing that's in here is a whistle. So that's it. PFD. Knife. I got to admit, I prefer a fixed blade knife, but this knife is pretty good. Be a bit of a faff to get it out. It'd be better for rescuing other people than trying to self-rescue with it, but at least I've got something. It gives you peace of mind. I suppose the last piece of kit that you can take with you for your safety is up here. And knowing the tides and knowing what the river's going to do in that tide. If I've got wind over tide, I know that the waves are going to be a bit bigger. The tide is almost fully out now, and I know that in the centre of the river up there and just over around here, there is a small shallow area where you get whitecaps. They're actually quite good fun, but they're only around for like an hour or two, and then they're gone. But knowing the tide, knowing is the tide coming in or coming out. When I got here earlier, I actually doubted myself because I knew I was paddling against the tide. I actually doubted myself for a minute because the boats over there were all facing upriver. The boats I'd been passing down there had all turned themselves around and were facing downriver, and the boats on this corner were halfway between the two. Now, boats will always face the way of the tide or the way of the flow of the water. It's just the way they are. When they're tethered like that, they will always face into the current of the water. So I was completely thrown for a minute because I had these boats doing all these different things, and I had to think about it for just a few minutes. And what I realised is there was quite a stiff breeze when I came out this morning, and those boats were facing into the breeze. The tide was slack, so they turned into the breeze. Slack means it stopped coming in and is basically not running at all. So those boats were facing there because the current of the river coming down was faster than the wind along that way, if that makes any sense. So the current was causing the boats to turn themselves in. The wind was causing the boats to turn themselves into the wind, and these were neither here nor there because the current and the wind were cancelling each other out. But just for a minute it did actually throw me. So when I go to Scotland, I will be, before I go, checking on the weather, and I will be checking on the tides, because at some point, as I say, we will be in a tidal area. And lastly, I have actually, Brian, if you're watching, I have tried the kayak paddle today and I can't get on with it. I just cannot. I'm going to need a lot more practice than I've got time to actually put into it before I can even think about using a kayak paddle. I almost flipped the boat at one point. Another point I tried to draw, and I had the flat edge of the paddle, and I came in so quick I almost tipped the boat over. So no, I won't be using that. Now, in my last video I did say I'd be using the plastic square sort of beaver tail paddle. I've actually changed my mind. I will take my grey owl beaver tail, but I'm going to also take my otter tail paddle, which is a very long paddle, great for deep water paddling, and I used it this morning against the tide and against the wind, and although it wasn't super fast headway, it was pretty good. So I'll be using this, taking this. It's getting on a bit now, but it should last this journey. Might be its last. It's a great paddle, very light, so I'll be taking this one instead. And that's about it. My camping gear I will show you in the next video, which I think will probably be, there's quite a big boat coming down this river, and if he doesn't know the channel properly, he could end up getting grounded. The channel the channel's quite narrow here. It's very deep, but it's quite narrow. If he gets it wrong, it's going to look very silly. Anyway, next video I'll be up on the moor and I'll show you my camping gear that I'm taking. I just haven't been able to camp this weekend. I won't go into why, but I just haven't been able to this weekend. But probably out with the Jinx next weekend. So the gear that I'm actually going to take to Scotland to camp in, I will take on that one. One thing I did forget to mention safety kit wise is I will be bringing a skid lid, a helmet. Obviously I don't need it here, and I might need it in Scotland, so I will be taking that as well. Right, I'm going to pack up my gear, go and play on the river for a little bit, and then go home because I live there. If I don't speak to you again, thanks for putting up with this rubbish, and I'll catch you on the next one, which, as I say, will probably be a camp with the Jinx. So expect bad weather and bad humour.